For the past few months, some of the best rallycross drivers in all of iRacing have made their way to states such as Florida, Indiana, and Georgia, along with many others. But today, for the first time this season, we're in wine country in the state of California. Who will conquer the twists and turns expected today? We're about to find out live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California for Round 7 of the Jetta RX Cup, hosted by Valhalla SimSport. I'm Justin Prince. On some of the booth tonight is Gary Weaver. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As these drivers prepare for today's race, let's take a look at your GSRC lap guide for the best way around Sonoma Raceway's rallycross circuit.
Welcome to Sonoma Raceway. With series as diverse as NASCAR, IMSA, and IndyCar visiting this California road course, it seems fitting that iRacing would include a rallycross layout of the track. Located north of San Francisco, it clocks in at a little bit under 1 mile and exactly 1.5 kilometers. The 6 turns along that length are wildly different and provide an interesting challenge for drivers. Taking the carousel in reverse and with dirt laid on it, things kick off in a way completely new to anyone who's driven the regular circuit. From there on out, transitions are a key word at this course. Whether it's transitioning from dirt to pavement, or going from the wide open spaces of the first half to the street course-like middle part of the circuit, drivers must be adaptable and ready for anything. In fact, the blind apexes scattered throughout certainly means you could be unpleasantly surprised by an unseen wreck unfolding in front of you. The Joker lap cuts out the jump that finishes up the lap and provides an excellent opportunity to get some clear track. But keep in mind that it sends you into the first turn with a lot more speed than usual. Passing won't be impossible, but tricky, especially in the tighter areas. It may make up a small portion of Sonoma's footprint, but the rallycross course delivers a great deal of fun, both to drivers and fans.
That was a look at your GSRC lap guide for the best way around Sonoma Raceway's rallycross circuit. Now let's bring in my broadcast partner tonight, Gary Weaver. And these drivers all set for what can be described as a bit of a challenging up and down racetrack.
Yeah, this track here, the Sonoma Rallycross course, has many elevation changes. Not only that, but with this being around about roughly 9, well actually about 5 turns and just coming almost under a mile at 0.93 miles in length. Well, this track with its up and down surface, a really long drag strip, utilizing the drag strip as well in portions of the Grand Prix circuit in some cases as well. This track has changed pretty much the entire way that Sonoma has been seen for the past few years.
Yeah, and a lot of the drivers throughout this practice as well having tons of bodywork damage trying to slide around this racetrack. Let's see how these drivers slide into today in the point standings as we approach the final couple rounds of the season. Remember, the winner of the championship will be able to choose a charity to which the prize money will go to at the end of the campaign. At the moment, that's Gabor Visky, who's leading the point standings by 36 points over one of the quickest drivers in practice. That is Mark Samogi, who is 36 points back entering today. Tim Brokaw is currently in third, with Alexander Veldman coming in today fourth, with Giovanni Cianfari inside the top 5 for today's point standings battle. That's a look at the top 5 of the point standings. Let's take a look as well at today's race details as these drivers get ready for round number 7.
Yeah, round 7 of what looks to be round 9 heading into next month, but we'll see how everything shakes out. It's the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup, not the Volkswagen Rallycross car, and that's the one little unique feature about this series, is that it takes a car that you really don't see often on iRacing, throws it onto a rallycross circuit, and goes, well, you know what? Let's just do this instead. At most, if needed, we will be using 3 heats for 5 laps each and 2 consolation events for 5 laps each. Again, all if needed. That's the maximum amount, and of course is subject to change. But all in all, this will end up with a 10-lap feature with 10 cars maximum.
Just so happens to be 10 drivers warming up around this racetrack today. Currently inside the top 6 in this practice time scores the driver 5th in the point standings, Gustavo Cianferroni. amongst many of the other drivers. Quickest drivers right now separated by only a couple tenths of a second, 47 seconds to 48 second lap times for many of these drivers today here, Gary.
And you see, Gustavo's actually used one of his Joker laps quite recently by looks of that Joker icon, taking this inner section a little bit too hard, unfortunately. And well, usually you'd be seeing this portion of the track in asphalt going the other direction in either the DeLar or even the NASCAR Cup Series over when they went to this circuit for the NASCAR iRacing Series. But right now, this utilizes essentially two different portions of the track and kind of goes one way, the normal direction here, as we take a look at Gabor Georgi, who will decide to end his lap that time around. But just under a second is your top four being separated.
How do you tackle a track like this, though, Gary? Because it was talked about last race with Atlanta and a couple of the other races. Some of them have more open space, some of them more compact. This is one of those more open space tracks we're expecting today.
Yeah, this actually goes from essentially open space to, well, passing opportunities. Like here, as you see, Sion Ferroni just getting under the right-hand side, driver's right-hand side of Tomas Quinieri. So this is something that we could be seeing, of course, during the course of the opening few laps. And unfortunately for Quinieri, with tackling a track like this, you're going to have to watch out for the sausage curbs. And, of course, those barriers in this portion of the track come up so incredibly quickly that you have to cut it close, but not so close to the point where you're clipping those walls.
Final moments of practice. Should note weather conditions. Beautiful. 84 degrees Fahrenheit is the air temp, 97 degrees the track temp for today's action. Winds, though, should note, are currently gusting about 15 to 17 miles an hour to the west, so wind may play a tiny bit of a factor here at Sonoma. Those are those weather conditions, as mentioned, up at the top of the screen. But these drivers, they're focused on more things than that. They're focused on getting good qualifying times in for good track position for when we get to the heats, because that time is coming right now, Gary. Drivers all set to go for qualifying. 10 total drivers ready to hit the track.
10 drivers, 5 minutes in total, 3 laps if needed. So if anyone does mess up one of their laps, they do have another chance to essentially almost restart their lap. They have a chance to redo as well. They're not allowed to use the Joker lap, I don't believe. And well, right when I say that, there goes Mark Samogi through the Joker lap to actually start. So we'll see how everything plays out. In fact, actually, he has a lot to go through here because it is before this that tower, because that is where the timing starts. It's where the IRX tower is, just after the Joker lap. So it's actually a really good idea to use that.
Gets about a little bit of extra run for the first corner indeed here. And keeping an eye on Samagi at this point. Talk us through, again, a bit of a lap here. You mentioned some of the passing zones. How would you drive this track?
It's been a while since I've actually driven this track, and with these cars being front-wheel drive, it's definitely challenging for sure. Mark Samogi just coming in incredibly close to the wall on the right-hand side. Coming here, you have to go out from the left-hand wall, get as close as you can, dive into the corner, of course, go over the jump. This is going to be how we take Sonoma. In fact, this in-car, I wonder if we can ride on board with Samogi throughout his lap, as you see just how wide this is, utilizing the drag strip. Slides into this opening section. It's a very challenging entry, especially with the fact that, well, you don't really have a handbrake to help assist you with turning, especially in these cars. And you see Samogi, he is out on the right-hand side, trying to get that apex going down into the left. You see where that cone is. That's kind of where you want to aim. You see just getting next to both of these walls on their respective sides. And, of course, right next to this right-hand wall. And, well, that left-hand side where that tire barrier is, well, you're usually right next to that regardless.
We'll see how the second lap goes. The first lap was a 48.854. That was the quickest that drivers on lap 1. Second lap marked at a 48.3. So the momentum picking up each and every lap, it seems, in this qualifying session. That just seems to be the way it goes for these types of cars. Yes, they're not normal rallycross machines, these Jettas, but that just is the tempo of how a lot of the rallycross qualifying goes, is the quicker you go, the more laps you turn up until the final lap.
as well as the fact that it's a little bit of an advantage. You get the hang of the car and the track combination even more so with practice, so you can essentially try and make sure you know what does work, what doesn't work during qualifying, what is actually going to be the best line to take for qualifying as well, not just trying to get a handle on the car alone.
Smoggy making his way around for the final time past the pylon of 48.4, actually a bit slower in the second lap, so still quickest in qualifying. Then you have Ben Sturak, who is currently second, now bumped to third because Visky, he puts up his quickest time of 48.9. Still, the 996 also done his qualifying session. Third laps being completed for many of the other competitors. A bit slower compared to practice times by about a few tenths or so, give or take, to some of their quickest times. But again, this is also some of the nature you see on some of the dirt oval races too, a little bit, where the more worked in the dirt gets, the slower the track seems to get as the track slickens up a bit.
Yeah, it definitely will be playing a factor with how the dirt changes. Of course, the asphalt kind of does change, but of course, not as much as the dirt, as Sean Foes was up on two wheels, somehow hangs onto it, and still gets on the inner side of the track after all of that. Great job by him to somehow hang on to that. These cars are very, if I could pronounce the word correctly, susceptible to flipping over quite easily, so that is incredible skill for Sean Foes. Hopefully, you won't see that in the race, but this dirt section will definitely be getting worn in throughout the course of the event.
And just about everyone's put in qualifying times. Aaron Cortez not electing to put into qualifying times, so everybody's current grid spots on the left side of your screen are now official. Everyone who has recorded time has already finished 3 qualifying laps, so that gives us the chance to recap how they will run through. Samaki currently the fastest qualifier of 48.2. He was also one of the quickest drivers in practice. Visky, 48.9 was his quickest qualifying lap, half a second off his practice pace. Then you have following on behind Gabor Giangi currently in third, Jurek Brokaw, then Cian Ferroni along with Kiani, along with Foes Berg, rounding out the drivers who recorded times. With that, it's time to head towards the racing portion of the card tonight. We'll see how these drivers handled this racetrack today as we get ready for heat racing. 2 different heats, 5 drivers apiece, all set to get racing. We'll see how they'll line up now for those respective heats. With that, it's Samagi who will lead them to the green flag and the green lights for the first run of this event. Then you have Giangi, Brokaw, followed along behind by Ken Uri. Berg rounds out the 5 drivers in heat race number 1 for what should be some eventful racing. Keep in mind, this is the halfway point of the track, Gary.
Yeah, this is the halfway point. This is actually the starting point as well. So
Yep.
this is going to be a key thing, is that's before the scoring pylon, and you will hear from your spotters that you're not supposed to take the Joker on the opening lap, and that's because the Joker is before the main scoring pylon where the laps will be scored at.
All 5 drivers have made their way to the grid as they're ready to get the green light. Round number 7's heat racing about to get underway for the Jetta RX Charity Cup. We're underway from Sonoma. Good launch for the top 5. Once more, back into the first corners of the track. Already contact Brokaw hitting the back end of the 44. Everyone else getting through nice and cleanly, though, for the first set of corners.
Just a little bit of contact between third and fourth, but they managed to sort everything out. And now that they come across the jump, and right when I say sorting everything out, having a huge amount of bad luck and flipping over is Tim Brokaw. He is pretty much out and will be going into the constellation that guaranteed at this point. But now that these drivers have passed the scoring pylon and go into the dirt section, now they are more than allowed to take their 1 Joker lap.
Indeed, coming down to 4 laps to go. 4 drivers still running on the track. Brokaw currently stopped on the track, has had to take a tow truck, so he'll lose track position for the feature race. Samagi making his way once again to the second and third portions of the racetrack once again. Currently holding on to what is about a 3-4 car length advantage, and he takes the Joker.
Kenyeri behind as well. He will take the Joker following Samogi, and that will put Kenyeri into third place, and that will shuffle Gabor Georgi into the third place position. Kristen Berg very, very far back, unfortunately. We'll have to take a Joker lap possibly very early on just to catch up.
See if how they play this out here. Samagi currently up at the front by more than 2 seconds just about. Still separated out. Most of the other drivers, keep in mind, do have to use their respective jokers at this point. So we'll see who elects to take them when. Currently back into the pavement section of the racetrack. 1:13.4 last time by in the first opening lap. This time, will anyone take the joker? Yes, the 44 machine took the joker this time.
And that will put Georgi in front of Kenyeri this time by. So it's kind of like that previous lap with the joker laps had never happened. Everything is resorted. Georgi has caught up back to Mark Smogi, who goes wide in this section. He'll actually arc it diamond in a reverse diamond, I should say, by the looks of that. And he will stay out in front of that 44 for the time being. But Smogi and Georgi are absolutely equal by the looks of this so far.
You're dead even on pace. Keep in mind, this team put in about an hour plus of practice time before the start of today's official final warm-ups today, Gary, to prepare for just this event. And that's already a lot of preparation, determination put together by the George Racing team members.
Yeah, these guys take their practice incredibly seriously, and they make sure that they know what portions of the track can work, what portions of the track really need to be worked on as well. And you see, well, sometimes even with practice, sometimes it doesn't entirely pay off as Smogi goes wide. But again, these cars not entirely built for rallycross racing and dirt racing in general, even with these cars being front-wheel drive. But the fact that these can run on dirt in the first place is absolutely incredible.
See how Georgi tries to close back on in. A little bit of tire smoke up the road from Samogi. Closing on in back within 3-4 car lengths. Better corner exit though for the 32. Coming to the white flag this time by in heat race number 1. As these drivers hit the bumps hard. Once again over the jump. Still, Samogi leads by 0.7 of a second plus.
And with the jump, you have to realize that if you take the jump too hard, that could damage your engine. It could damage suspension. It's not just with these cars, but it's with anything. It's with the pro trucks. It's with the rallycross cars. It's any of those that were even built to race on dirt. You have to be careful, time the speed on the jump perfect, and well, that's what Samogi did, and he continues to lead.
Gap has grown to a full second just about. Once again to the second half of the racetrack, to the pavement portion. This has been right where the corner gains have been really strong for Samogi. Once again, really good on throttle, past the tires. Once again to the final section for the jump. Will they get through cleanly? Yes, indeed. Mark Samogi wins heat race number 1 of round 7.
Georgi will come across in second place. He will automatically go into the feature, and also with everyone else. Coming across in third is Kenyeri, and Kristen Berg will be able to round out the 4th place position, with Tim Brokaw, unfortunately, not able to finish.
So 2 moved on to the feature race from that. The top 2, Samogi and Georgi. Then Kenyeri in 3rd position will have to go to the alphabet. Berg also in that same situation as Brokaw. Those drivers have limited positions available in respective C and B mains currently scheduled. Now, heat race number 2 will feature Visky starting at the front, Jurak along with Sian Ferrani. Then you have Foles in 4th position, rounding up the top 5, Cortez among the drivers. Already all 5 onto the grid. Green lights waiting for these drivers to get back going racing. We're underway for heat race number 2. Already Visky tries to lead him, and already contact, a bit of hitting. That's one of the kinetic racing machines hitting the back, having more contact. That's Foes that gets shuffled out of the way. Everyone back to single file, though, for the official start of the first lap.
Cortez with a great start, Jurak as well, but both of those took the jump a little bit too far to the left. It's contact, huge crash. Sian Ferrani and Jurak both involved in a huge crash at the starting pylon coming to the first lap, and those two will immediately go into the C or B main to figure out where they will sort themselves out. But, well, just like that, those two are immediately out early on.
Very vicious crash. The reason for how hard they went up in the sky you seen there was because they smacked hard into the tower, into the scoring pylon, and went off of that up into the sky. With that, though, Visky is now in control of the lead by a good margin. Jurek in second spot, then the third driver on through. Currently the first driver out is Sean Foes. Keep an eye on the 8. If anything happens with the 996, Foes has a chance to close up. In fact, he's taking the Joker on lap 1.
Coming to completing lap 1 for Sean Foes, as he'll come down to lap number 2, trying to get some kind of advantage here on Benset Jurek, as Jurek took the jump too far left, and right when I say that, around goes Sean Foes. And, well, unfortunately, he is pretty much out of the running for P2 unless something happens between Jurek or Visky.
Back up towards the front, Visky still running off and away. Remember, Visky's been having a stellar campaign in this championship so far, already leading by more than 6+ seconds just about at the moment. And remember, has been very quick in practice as well, was second quickest behind Samagi in the session.
Well, as we ride on board the leader of Gabor Albert-Visky, just behind him, he set the fastest lap last time around. Sean Foes had spun out again, actually exiting the dirt section, but Benset Jurek had taken his Joker lap, completed it as well in the process. Sean Foes, unfortunately, struggling to continue to get back going as Gabor Albert-Visky continues to lead the way.
Going to be interesting to see if traffic plays a factor with the way this is shaping up, unfortunately, for Foes and his run in the 8 machine. Keep in mind, Foes getting some experience today the tough way in his Jetta. Jurek, though, currently running still now 6 and has even out the time lossage to Visky. Keep in mind that Jurek nearly jumped over the concrete barriers at the start of the first lap right here because he was too far to the left. This time, he's now able to be more stable compared to how he was at the start, coming to 2 laps to go.
Yeah, luckily, just that main start, just trying to get going, have that advantage, or at least the, oh my goodness, look at the wheel work as well being put in by Benset Jurek. You have to really wheel these things a lot more than the rallycross cars, just by the looks of it for sure, but Benset Jurek with that get going right away attitude, which is great, of course, on that main start. It got him up to second place currently, and he's still managing to quite literally hang on to this thing while being sideways.
Coming towards the white flag this time by Visky, currently still dominating this heat by now 12+ seconds. Again, Jurek and Visky locked in as long as they don't make mistakes on this final lap. Keep in mind, Foes just up the road. Will the traffic play a factor on this white flag lap? We'll have to wait and see. As the Ace Gate Foundation machine tries to stay at the left side of the racetrack. Would that be a factor is the question. Remember, this is where Foes has spun around a couple times in the 8 machine. Overshoots the corner to the right side of the racetrack. Visky backs up the gas. Foes sends it off to the concrete barriers and moves out of the way. For Visky, final set of corners now for the 5. Gabor Visky dominates heat race number 2. He'll take the checker flag and move on to the feature race. Jurek also moves into the feature race by 13-14 seconds behind the leader. He was also able to get by cleanly despite the damage on the back end of Mr. Joker's car.
Great job by him to hang on to it, even after possibly sustaining suspension damage. But Benset Jurek will come home in that second place position and immediately move on. And looks like everybody else will be automatically sorted as we go to the 2-minute warm-up.
Indeed, remember, with the field size, there can be shuffling to the format. That means everyone in turn, as prior expected, will be in the field. However, the drivers who had trouble, like Foes, Berg, along with Ian Ferroni, along with Brokaw and Cortez, they get the pleasure now of being in the back half of the starting grid for today's 10-lap race.
And now with these 2 minutes, it's just something for these drivers to get themselves acquainted really with the track just one more time before we go in, maybe try out some side-by-side racing in some sections of the racetrack, seeing what can work and what can't work.
So based on what you've seen so far, what do you think will and will not work for race conditions when all 10 competitors will be on the track at the same time?
Well, heading into the, well, not exactly first corner per se, but heading into the first opening corners, at least off the main start, you're going to have to be careful, especially if you're in the back. It's not going to be worth just trying to push so early on, especially with some drivers having a little bit of trouble going into that right-hander just before the jump, because that curb pops out, and that is something to really look out for as well. So the opening lap, be relatively cautious. Don't try and make any moves so suddenly, and I'll just let everyone else sort themselves out and then try to make some moves. But be careful with that dirt section, because these cars, well, they can stick, but it all depends on that speed.
To remind you once again, 10 laps the distance for the feature. 1 joker is available for respective drivers if the question is going to be as well when they decide to use said joker. We're about to find out, though, how today's feature race goes for round 7 of the Jetta RX Charity Cup. Samogi will bring them to the green flag when the green lights go out for tonight's action. We'll see how things shape out for him between him and Visky in the championship battle. They'll be among the drivers starting off in the front row for when the grid is all set to go here today, here on GSRC. Here's a look at the rest of the drivers as well. Keep in mind, Giaggi was also showing good speed in his heat race, starts in 3rd. Jurak, Kenyuri inside the top 5. Then the rest of the drivers were the ones who had trouble in their respective heats. Foes, Berg, Cianferroni, Roca, Cortez are the 10 drivers in today's event. With that, just under 30 seconds until the green lights go out. Just waiting for the last of the drivers to make their way to the starting grid. For the top 5, it is all George Racing Esport team machines. They look to try and dominate today, or will someone from Kinetic or Hungarian Power break their way into victory lane, or one of the VMMotorsportUSA.com sponsored machines? We're about to find out. All drivers onto the grid, green lights, off and away. We're underway for round 7 from Sonoma. All the teammates trying to back off one another. Already some contact with some of the concrete barriers. Contact! Kenyuri side by side with Jurek able to save it. The kinetic racing machine of Cianferroni spun nearly around. Everyone else, though, able to make it to the scoring pylon for the start of lap 1.
Cianferroni managing to hang on to it as we go into the dirt section for the first time. Everyone almost single file. Kenyeri was looking to the right-hand side of Bense Jurak. Everyone going wide, but managing to hang on to their Volkswagen machines at the moment. And look at Mark Smogi up on the outside lane as Visky was trying to look to the left-hand side, but that will not happen just yet. Visky looks to the right-hand side again as we come back onto the asphalt. And now at this point, it's where Visky can try and capitalize, maybe find the passing zone, or even take the joker lap.
We'll see if anyone elects to take the joker. Yes, Samagi electing to take his joker on the first lap, as well as 3rd and 4th. So 3 of the top 4 drivers electing to take the jokers. That shuffles out Visky to P4 for the time being, and gives Samagi a little bit of breathing room by about 2+ seconds. Here's the thing, though. The battle was on for second between 2 of the drivers who took the joker. Kenyuri just got doored by his teammate and Giaggi up the hillside. And this is holding up Visky now with a cone now stuck underneath the 59's front nose.
Bad luck for Kenyeri. Actually, that cone may have actually made its way away already for Kenyeri, so luckily will not provide any major handling issues for that number 59 as he goes very wide. That's going to leave the inside lane open for Gabor Albert Visky. He goes back into the podium spots for 3rd place, and he'll move his way up to 2nd place now as he takes the joker lap.
Had to get back out of the traffic, indeed does, but smart decision for Samagi to take the joker. Pulled nearly a second plus of extra time because of his decision to take it on the first lap. But Visky held up in traffic. The question is, will that distance stand? Last time by a 49.4 set by Samagi.
We'll see how these two can, if these two can actually get the gap closed between each other. Again, we've seen throughout the heat races that they are relatively dead even on pace and pretty much equal, almost mirrors of each other. So we'll see if Visky can close the gap. I don't doubt that in any way, shape, or form. These two always put on some great racing, so we'll see. But that's, of course, pending the final corner where they take the curbing too much, and that's pretty much all over. But as we come to the scoring pylon once again, double checking laps, well, relatively even, like I mentioned, only about 5/100ths of a second had separated the two.
They were like that in practice as well, trading times back and forth. Samoki still leads by 1.4 seconds up through the carousel portion of the racetrack. Everyone spread apart for the time being, top 6 spread by nearly 9 seconds. Visky still trying to work his wheel all around though. Here's a look on board as he tries to close the gap.
This is a great angle. You see with that just edge as well as over there, it looks close, and it is close right next to those two walls. It's almost as if that there could be curbs there, but there aren't. Instead, there are walls, and you have to be very careful. You have to aim almost for those walls just to get the correct speed. Last time by the scoring pylon, just about a tenth faster, actually, just under a tenth faster was Visky, and you see here how much you have to work the wheel in this dirt section once again, and that is working out for Visky in his favor as he's closing the gap. Lap traffic is on the form of Gustavo Cianferrani in front of Mark Smogi. Oh,
yeah. Some contact.
Mark Smogi broke loose, but he made it.
Yes, indeed, smack one of the cones. As now, the Connect Racing Machine hit the barriers a little bit to move out of the way there. Still stuck on the bottom side. Visky still now stuck behind him, trying to find his way to the right side of him. Yes, indeed. Sends it harder on the brakes. Line, though, a bit compromised. Gained a little bit of time, actually, with that line, a couple tenths.
Halfway this time by, 5 laps complete, 5 to go. And Visky might actually want to take, well, not exactly the first line in the asphalt on that initial right-hander, but we'll see if taking a more right-handed approach essentially into that final corner could actually work out. He did close the gap like you mentioned, Justin, and well, it's working out so far, especially including that mess up from Mark Smogi just last lap.
We'll see if he goes back to that well for he sticks with the higher arc this time. Smogi, though, this is best part of the racetrack, coming through some of the portions of the dogleg. Once again, wider arc set by both drivers. Visky a little bit closer on corner exit to the right side, gained another half a tenth. Coming to 4 laps to go this time by. Has a little bit of slipstream as well down the straight, gaining a little bit of extra time as well. Really hard on the gas, closing up the gap in the carousel.
This is a great section for Albert Visky, is that he can get a much better entry compared to Mark Smogi. And you see here as we ride on board is that it is relatively the gap is pretty much non-existent as Visky has caught up. He's going to look just about to the right-hand side, but he'll now follow in the tire tracks of Mark Smogi, almost coming right onto the back bumper. Transition back to the asphalt, almost caused this car to flip over, but it's normal with these cars as they decide to manage to quickly hang on to it. A little bit of a wider entry from Mark Smogi. Gabor Albert Visky could be looking at the lead into this dirt section with 3 to go.
Battle for the lead between Whopper and Whiskey. Here comes Whiskey on the bottom side. Visky wants the lead into the carousel, takes away the preferred line. Smogi clips a bit of the grass. Contact! Damage to the back end of Whiskey's car now. Smogi still trying to work his way, now forced back to second spot. It's now Visky who leads, coming to 2 to go.
Great opportunity by Gabor Albert Visky, nearly just missing the cone in the process. But Gabor Albert Visky with a lead so far. We'll see if Smogi can close the gap, but well, with the momentum that number 5 machine has had throughout this race, and the fact that he continues to make that gap even greater by the seconds, Mark Smogi might have to be settling for that second place position.
Of note, right as they were starting to battle, the 44 of Gyagi was closing on in, but unfortunately for Sir, did have a slowdown that cost him all the time he had a chance to have for the battle. But let's go towards that now, because that slowdown also set up a battle for the final step on the podium, all between teammates Jurak and then Kenyuri, now all within range to try and attack, coming to the white flag.
Poor Georgi going to have to heavily defend here in these final laps, especially with these final corners. So we'll see if Georgi can hold on to it. Hopefully he will be able to, but these three are all within striking distance of each other for their respective positions.
White flag is out, bell lap for round 7 of the Jetta RX Charity Cup here at Sonoma Raceway. Viski currently leads by almost 2 seconds up at the front. He looks to try and maintain control, was 4/10 quicker last time by. Behind them, though, that battle for third is still getting fairly heated for the white flag as well. We'll see how this all shapes out after such a dominating run to be able to make the pass for Viski. Final half lap for Gabor Viski. On the long run, quickest driver today. He'll come home with the victory. Gabor Viski wins the Jetta RX Charity Cup's 7th round at Sonoma Raceway's Rallycross circuit. Samoki comes home in 2nd position, but 3rd position goes to Georgi. Able to get some separation after a battle for 4th broke out on the final corners. Kenyeri and Jurak bumped and ran each other to make the moves for the rounding out the top 5 spots. Last, the drivers making their way across the stripe, and this is Berg. And that car took an absolute beating today, but overall, fun racing up at the front.
Cianfrani also able to finish even with so much bad luck. Not the best race for Cianfrani, but he does get an extra position as Sean Foes had a lot of bad luck, unfortunately, by the looks of it. I retired just 2 laps prior to the finish.
And a formation lap being taken now by the George Racing Team teammates after a dominant run today by the organization. A top 5 sweep by the George Racing Team finds them in victory lane today. With that post-race coverage coming up in a few moments, you're watching the Global Sim Racing channel live for the virtual Sonoma Raceway for the Jetta RX Charity Cup. Welcome back to the Global Sim Racing channel's coverage of the Jetta RX Charity Cup after an exciting 7th round of racing here at Sonoma Raceway. Justin Prince, Gary Weather with you, along with Sean Ambrose in the director's seat, Dougie Beer providing the cameras, as Viski came home with a victory by more than 2 seconds. Samoki led them to the green flag and the green lights today and held on for half the race before Viski was able to make the pass going into the carousel. Finishing in 3rd was Georgi with Kenyeri in 4th position. Jurek rounded out the top 5, a 1-2-3-4-5 for George Racing Team. Tim Brokaw finished in 6th, with Cortez having a rough one in 7th. Berg, the last drop in the lead lap in 8th, with Cianfrani coming home in P number 9. he was one lap down and the last driver to finish, while Sean Foes rounded out the entrants in round number 7 today. Some entertaining racing as we now bring in Mark Samogi after he had a pretty fun battle with Visky throughout the race. Mark, how are you feeling after that one?
Hello guys, I'm feeling well. So I had a big engine problem from the fifth lap. Um, this is why Whiskey cannot let me that easy. I didn't want to let myself that easy. So, but that's it. It's a motorsport, and if you have a problem, you have to race more and more and more, and that was today's race. So I cannot do anything about it. Whiskey was very, very good. The guys went very, very good. So congrats from them.
Congrats indeed as well. There was a lot of preparation for you and your team, in fact, before today's race, and it worked out to a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finish, a 1 through 5 finish. What are some of the difficulties of driving this track with a car, mind you, that is not usually racing on the dirt like this?
Yeah, it was we are practicing a lot. So we try to find where we can find a little bit of asphalt on the dirt, because on the side of the dirt you can find a little bit 20 centimeters of asphalt, and if you find it with a tire, you can have a very, very good acceleration. So this was what we are practicing all the time.
Looked like it too, especially in the carousel portion. It seemed to have taken that very higher line at some portions, but final round of the season overall coming into play next month, in fact. Iowa is currently the set track location. Your thoughts into the final round?
Can you repeat, please? I didn't understand. Sorry.
What are your thoughts on how this season has gone as you get ready for the final round of the campaign next month?
I think it will be fine. So we will practicing a lot. So I hope we can make a very good result. Don't know how it will be happens, because motorsport again. So it can happen everything. Maybe I can make very big accident or something like that, and maybe Whiskey will win the championship. Don't know. I will push the throttle to the metal, and we will see.
We'll see indeed. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yes, I want to thank for my girlfriend, because she didn't went to sleep, and it's 11:30 here in Hungary, and I want to say thank you for my team, the George Racing team, because they are practicing with me a lot, and we had a lot of fun. So thank you guys, thank you everything, and for you too.
Thank you very much for the time, Mark. Congratulations on the top 3 finish.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye-bye indeed. That's Mark Samogi coming home in second today, 2.1 seconds back in. You talked about it a little bit, Gary, where if you hit the car too hard off some of the jumps, you can damage the engine. He said it himself. Lap 5, when he lost the lead, his engine had damage.
Yeah, it's when you have to, hopefully, it's the thing, it's the competitive nature that always happens. You take too much speed over the jump, and unfortunately, sometimes, well, there's a 50-50 chance that it could go well or couldn't go well, depending on how you take the jump. So it's always, when it comes to jumps, about throttle control.
Now, the final round of the season coming up next month. Your thoughts on how this entire campaign has fared out for these drivers as they get ready for the championship deciding race?
I'm quite excited, especially with the fact that it heads into Iowa and possibly also the Hell Rallycross circuit as well for next month. So it's something to really just keep an eye on, seeing how everything goes, especially with the possibly Hell RX track being added pretty late, once that was added to the iRacing surface, I believe about now 3 months ago. So seeing how these cars will handle there, I'm quite excited.
Quite excited indeed. With that, though, I'd like to thank you for tuning in for today's coverage for what has been some exciting racing today here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Also like to take the time to thank all our sponsors, as well as all the people who make it a part of today's action, including the software and hardware for our broadcast listed up on your screen. Additional thanks go to Jude Lawan, who provides your wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today and Sean along with Gary. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storeandvy.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. As mentioned, the 8th round of the campaign expected to be at Iowa. That's on July the 18th at the current moment. Be sure to tune in. Estimated start time 4:45 p.m. Eastern. That is 8:45 p.m. GMT. We also have many upcoming races for our series listed up on your screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.